Communication is something that is so profoundly difficult for an avoidant. They have feelings, wants, needs, fears that they just don't tell their partner. And they put their partner in the position of having to be a mind reader. The avoidant will even justify these fears, saying, if this person loves me, they should just know. They should just know what I want. And this lack of communication leads to the breakdown of relationships. And that's regardless of whether you're dealing with a fearful or a dismissive avoidant. Their lack of communication stems in fear of rejection, fear of abandonment. And that's because of childhood experiences. This is a person that was consistently emotionally neglected as a child, not given the love and nurturing in the way that they needed. In addition to that emotional neglect, their feelings were routinely dismissed, rejected, maybe even reprimanded for having any kind of negative emotion. If you're sad, go be sad in your room. Nobody wants to see your emotions. They're not welcome here. Children are meant to be seen and not heard. That kind of mentality. So what they learned is that my feelings aren't important, and if I express them, I'm going to get rejected, perhaps even abandoned. So if they haven't worked on these attachment wounds, that fear of communication still runs deep in the avoidant as an adult. Communicating about their needs, their feelings, if their partner is doing something they don't like, it is profoundly scary to them. So they do justify their lack of communication. They'll say, well, I'm just trying to make this person happy, and if they love me, they should just know what I want. The problem is that nobody actually is a mind reader, and it sets it up for inevitable failure. Because these unmet needs, these unmet wants, these feelings and fears have never been communicated to their partner. At best, indirectly hinted. But it bottles up and it bottles up, and that can lead to resentment. And it can lead to the fear becoming so insurmountable that the only way the avoidant knows how to self-soothe is to run away, avoid, not deal with it, suppress those emotions, and just completely block out the fear, block out the entire situation, and just exit the relationship. When avoidants get triggered, their instinct is to deactivate. Deactivation is when they separate themselves from their emotions. They take their feelings for their partner and they bury them. They don't allow themselves to access their emotions. It's maladaptive, but that's how they learn to keep themselves safe. Because feelings, emotions, vulnerability, communication, they learned as a child none of that is safe. So they detach from their emotions. They were never shown how to process them. And now they compartmentalize. They use logical reason as to why the relationship has to end, even though it actually isn't logical. They'll come up with vague excuses. I can't give you what you need. I'm just not ready for a relationship right now. And sometimes they will cite a specific reason why they're ending it, something that you were doing, but they never told you. And due to the lack of communication, the partner of the avoidant was never given the opportunity to address any of these things. In many cases, the relationship could have been saved if the avoidant had actually communicated. But due to the lack of communication, a relationship that was otherwise wonderful comes to an end. And the person that is being discarded and dumped is given little to no explanation because communication, again, so profoundly difficult for the avoidant. Combine that with a lack of self-awareness and a lack of self-reflection, you get these vague excuses, and sometimes, due to the fears of communication, they just ghost altogether. They're so overwhelmed with anxiety that they just disappear. And taking space is how they soothe themselves. But space means avoiding, not dealing with it, distracting themselves, not facing those emotions that they don't want to face. By the way, ghosting is a choice. Not all avoidants will ghost, because ghosting is a very unkind thing to do to someone. It lacks empathy. There is no empathy in ghosting. The person doing the ghosting is not considering the impact that it has on the other person. They're not considering the other person's feelings at all and the pain that will cause them. They're thinking of themselves and what they perceive that they want, need, feel, or fear in the moment. But ghosting is a choice, and it's a reflection of the character of the person ghosting. But the lack of communication, it all drives from insecurities and fears. You're not a mind reader. If this person never communicated their needs to you, that's not your fault. It's not your fault. But, however, if this person does communicate to you and you get defensive and reject their feelings and invalidate their feelings, well, that right there can make it more difficult for them to communicate the next time around. So make sure that you are listening to your partner. Make sure that you are listening to their feelings and paying attention and caring, even if you disagree. Validate their feelings. It doesn't mean you need to agree with them. Just simply acknowledging their feelings. I see this makes you upset. I see this concerns you. When people feel heard, it's easier for them to communicate, and that is especially true with avoidance. But you cannot force them to communicate because many never even give you the opportunity, all due to fear, and they're really not considering how the lack of communication will affect the other person. And that's not your fault.